I sat down in the middle seat, buckled my belt, shoved my bag under the seat in front. The man by the window didn't look at me. He was watching the tarmac through the glass, same expression as at the gate. Someone was about to sit down on my left, and then any conversation would get logistically complicated, so I turned to him and said, "Excuse me, would you mind switching seats with me?" He turned his head. Up close he looked a little different than from a distance. Not less, just different. Like up close, there was a layer visible that distance had concealed. Dark eyes and that calm, attentive expression that makes an impression, because you can tell right away that he's actually listening. "To the window seat?" he asked. "Yes, I have kind of a complicated relationship with flying." He looked at me for a moment. Not with surprise, not with irritation, just considering it quietly, the way he seemed to consider everything. "And you're sitting in the middle." "The middle was assigned," I said, which sounded dumb because obviously it was, but I was a little flustered. "Makes sense," he said without any edge. He stood up. We switched. As I settled into the window seat, he arranged his things with the calm efficiency of someone who flies often and has a system. Tablet into the seat pocket, jacket on his lap, seat reclined exactly 2 notches. No rushing, no fuss. "Thank you," I said. "Don't mention it." He said it like he genuinely meant it, not as a pleasantry, but in the tone you use when something is simply obvious. I thought about how rare that was. Most people accept thanks with a modesty that's a little bit performance. He wasn't doing that. For a moment, neither of us said anything. Through the window, I could see the baggage handlers loading something into the hold, a few people in reflective vests moving around the plane. Every time I wait for takeoff, I have this irrational conviction that watching all of this from the outside should be reassuring, because if they're doing it so routinely, everything must be fine. It doesn't help, but I do it anyway. I looked at him sideways. He still had that expression, the same one as at the gate, like he was somewhere else. "You look sad," I said, before I'd had time to think about it. He turned his head. I'd actually surprised him this time. I could tell by the way he looked at me for a moment like he wasn't sure he'd heard right. "Thank you," he said after a brief pause. "That's the nicest thing I've heard today. I mean," I felt warmth rise in my cheeks. "You're good-looking and everything, but you just look sad. Sorry, I say things before I filter them. It's either a flaw or a quality, depending on who you ask, and I still haven't worked out any rule for which it is when." He looked at me for a moment with an expression I couldn't quite read. Like he was figuring out what to do with this information. It wasn't irritation, more like curiosity, like someone had suddenly changed the song on him to something he hadn't expected, and he was deciding whether that was a good thing.